What is the best way you've seen a guy hit on a girl? Story 1. I watched a guy fall down skiing on the steepest part of a run and could not stop. Skis, poles, hats, and gloves flew. As he's rolling and sliding, I notice he's about to slam a bowling ball into a girl standing at the bottom. He spreads out his arms and legs and manages to stop. But he's lying face up, feet uphill, and she's just looking down at him like, WTF? Finally, he says, I've been trying to meet you all day. Story 2. At a swimming party during summer break, one girl didn't know how to swim, but my friend took her by the hands into the pool. And next thing, he was holding her in her arms, the smoothest, most excellent way. After that, we all noticed they made a natural couple, as if they were meant to be. Story 3. One of my close friends and I were playing pool in our dorm commons when this knockout brunette sat down with a few of her friends. My friend and I noticed she was glancing at him, but we continued playing pool. A half hour or so went by, and I asked him what he was doing the following day at 6 when I finished class. He turned and smiled at her before telling me, whatever she's doing at 6. Her jaw dropped, and she started giggling. They dated for nearly a year after that. It was the smoothest thing I've ever seen to date. Story 4. I was walking to class a couple of months ago when I saw a guy and a girl nearly bump into each other through a tight doorway. They looked at one another and gave their respective awkward smiles. But then both tried to walk the same way around, twice. They looked again at each other when the guy put his hands on the girl's waist, picked her up, and slowly placed her on the opposite side of himself. I had to walk past him at this point, but when I looked up, she was staring at him and blushing, and I saw them talking outside after class and seemed to be hitting it off. Story 5. At a party, a guy from a different school spotted a girl who stood out. He purposefully strode over, so she and her friend stopped and looked at him. He then fell to the ground on purpose, but fell onto glass, cut himself pretty badly, and loudly yelled. When the girl runs over and asks if he's okay, he says, it may look bad, but I remember I fell for you. Story 6. My friend and this girl were talking. The girl tells the guy his joke was shit, and the guy replies, saying she looks like shit, and immediately follows up with, see, now we've both lied, and we just look stupid. Story 7. My 5-year-old nephew looked at my girlfriend's shoes and said, I like your shoes. Then they looked her dead-eye and said, you're so pretty. All I could think was, nice shoes, wanna fuck? Story 8. I was at a work function, puffing on a cigarette. A girl I knew saw me and said jokingly, you know, smoking makes your sperm swim in circles. Then she went back to talking to her friends. A few minutes later, I noticed she also lit a cigarette, so I said to her, you know, smoking makes your sperm swim in circles. I don't have any sperm, she says. Want some? I reply. She laughed. Story 9. When I was 5 years old, I hit with a stick the cutest little girl I'd ever seen while playing in the park near her house. She ran home and told her dad, who read me the riot act. 12 years later, I took her to senior prom, and another 11 years after that, I married her. Story 10. Once walked up to a girl and said I owed her an apology. Could I take her out to dinner to apologize? Naturally, having never seen me before, she asked why. I should have asked earlier. It didn't work, but I got a giggle and a blush. Story 11. He went up to her and asked her if she dropped some random item he had in his hand, then proceeded to tell her a funny story. And that was it. Done. I think he showed most guys in the club that you don't need to instantly comment on a woman's physical appearance or grab her bum to win her over. Story 12. My one friend did kind of this. He took a beer bottle cap, bent it, and stuck it onto his nose. He approached the girl at a bar and asked if she had thrown this bottle cap at him. It worked. Another one he did was, this girl had a big beauty spot on her face, so he walked up to her and said, you have a beauty spot right here. He proceeded to wave his hand across her entire face. She also worked. Story 13. I was once walking out onto the balcony at a party. A girl next to the door was about to light a cigarette on the wrong end. As the flame touched, I drunkenly snatched it out of her mouth and threw it on the ground, saying, you almost made a terrible mistake. Her, haha, I like your hat. She invited me over about 10 minutes later. None of that should have worked. Story 14. Once my friend mustered up the courage and decided to ask out his longtime crush, so he approached her, and his mind went blank as soon as he opened his mouth to talk. And instead, he narrated his complete biodata, past achievements, his family, etc. Story 15. Went to breakfast with my mate from college. The black waitress comes over to take our order, and he asks for a coffee. She asks how he took his coffee, and he does this ridiculous, I like my coffee like I like my women, dark, sweet, and piping hot. It worked. She blushed, and they chatted a bit. He got her number. Story 16. I once ran into a girl from my high school graduating class 13 years after we graduated. When I said hi to her, I told her, I didn't recognize you at first because I thought to myself, I couldn't have gone to high school with that girl. She's too young. It made her day. Story 17. A buddy of mine once accidentally bumped shopping carts with a girl at Walmart. She was pretty hot, and my friend, thinking quickly on his feet, said, "Oh no, well, we've got to exchange phone numbers for insurance information." Story 18. I'm hosting a Halloween party in college one year. Toward the end of the night, I walked into my living room, and there's a Snow White all over this dude on the couch. The guy is way too drunk, and he's starting to pass the fuck out. I walk over to them, look at her, and just say, "He's not going to be able to get it up tonight, and I live upstairs." She grabs my hand, and off we go, the proudest pickup of my life. Story 19. This happened a couple of days ago on Tinder. Just to preface, I'm 5'7". She wrote in her bio, "Must be 5'10" to ride this ride." So I opened with, "I'm only 5'7", but I got an extra 3 inches somewhere else, if you know what I mean. It worked. I got her number. Story 20. I was 6 years old, at an extended day school. I was listening to a teacher tell a story, but I was on the other side of the room under a table. A girl I had a crush on and was good friends with was nearby, and I remember vaguely saying something like, "Hey, want to get married someday?" She responded with a yes. Then I said something like, "Well, if we're married, then we gotta kiss, right?" And it worked. Story 21. I once watched a buddy of mine convince a girl that he worked for Crayola and was directly in charge of the color Fire Engine Red. He sealed the deal for the night, and we all were in shock because he had one of the most excellent jobs on the planet. He is a fighter pilot. He states that he likes the challenge. Story 22. I was dancing with a girl at a party when she mentioned she had a tongue piercing, and I, very drunk at the time, responded with, "I've never kissed a girl with a lip ring before." She goes, "Well, let's change that." We then dated for a year. Story 23. I went to college with a guy who used to hold on to mini sugar packets. Anytime a hot girl would walk by in the food courts or the quad, he would toss one next to their feet, pick it up and say, "Hey, I think you dropped your name tag." It was very effective. Story 24. A few years ago, my buddy and I were at Steak and Shake. Our waitress was cashing us out at the register, and he signed, "I love you" on the credit card slip. She read it out loud saying, "I love you." And he responded with, "Whoa, take it easy, we just met, but I love you too." Instant classic. Story 25. My buddy saw a girl standing alone at the bar and noticed she was wearing a Star of David necklace. So he walks up to her and says, "Hi, are you here with someone? Or are you just waiting for your Messiah?" She threw a drink in his face.